Hello, friends. I'm having another guest this time. My last video I had a guest. It was my best friend Katie. And my last video I shared for the first time on my YouTube channel that I had a boyfriend, and now I'm married. So it's been a while. I need to make more frequent videos. But anyways, I thought it would be great for the two people out there who want to know our story.
They haven't already heard it.
No, it's for posterity reasons, or, it's just a recording of God's journey and his working in both of our lives, bringing us together. And really, you see those signs in places like Hobby Lobby, which we so love Hobby Lobby. We don't like Hobby Lobby, except for framing. But they'll have those signs that say something like, out of...
Hobby Lobby is a good Christian company.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's just overwhelming.
Yes. But, they'll have those signs that say something like, of all the stories, I love our story best, and though I wouldn't put a cheesy sign like that in my house, really, when I think about our story,
it's really cheesy.
It's really cheesy. Our story's cheesy, but really, our story is my favorite. I couldn't have imagined it working out better. It's worked out perfectly, in an amazing way. So we thought we would just share. Really is a testimony of God bringing us together, how he has worked so many things out, has even used the coronavirus pandemic to help with the whole situation.
I orchestrated a world pandemic to get her into my life. It worked.
So I'll just, let's see, I'm trying to think where to start. I guess, a lot of you guys know my story. I was not looking to date. I'd been in a not good situation before. I had moved into my house last year. Was it last year? Or a year ago. And I was just feeling like I was getting my feet on the ground. I was, it was my first place. I was totally my own. And anyways, so what had happened was, not this past summer, but the summer before, I had a group of friends over for dinner because and you guys, I told you the story about how I got that farmhouse and what an amazing testimony it was. And I was having some friends over from our church Singles Life group over to share the story about how God did it and to show everyone the house. And so I had some friends over. One of them was a girl that had been dating a guy for a couple weeks, and I knew about it, but no one else did. And she was like, hey, can I bring my boyfriend? And that way he can meet everyone. I'm like, sure, it's fine. So she had brought him. It was all fine. And then, maybe it was the next week. I didn't start from the very beginning where we initially met. We initially met at a dog birthday party. But it was just in passing. It was just I wasn't even planning on going, but I already had to be in town for dance class. And I was like, oh, I can just swoop in real quick, say hi, show my support as a friend, and leave. And I met you there, but it was just hi, my name's Shauna. Great. He had a really firm handshake. So, anyways, so that's where I first met him. And then, so a couple weeks go by, and that's when I had everyone over for dinner. And so the next week, so I had him over on Saturday night, Monday or Tuesday, I get a text from my girlfriend. And she's like, hey, my boyfriend really wants to set you up with his friend, and sent a picture of him to me. And she goes, do you know who he is? I'm like, oh yeah, I know who he is, briefly. I met him at the dog birthday party I went to a couple weeks ago. But I'm like, I'm not interested in dating. If he wants to show up at places we're all doing stuff together, it's fine. But I'm just not interested in dating. So, do you want to share your side? How it?
So,
And well, real quick. And so I thought what had happened was her boyfriend had went to his friend, TJ, and was like, "Hey, I met a Christian who can cook." And then TJ was like, "Okay." That's how I thought it went.
which typically that's all it takes. Good-looking Christian woman who can cook. So, I wasn't in a place where I was really looking to meet anybody. I had my stuff I was going through, and I was just in a place where I was super focusing on God. Still am. And I was at church, and I noticed about 4 rows in front of me this good-looking woman who was worshiping God that I hadn't seen before, and her hair was long, and she was just worshiping, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of her, and was extremely intrigued. And she had turned around, and I kind of recognized her face from the dog birthday party.
Thanks, Derek.
It was a very special dog.
He was in a tux.
He was in a tuxedo. And so I had mentioned to our mutual friend about this person that I had seen, and I showed him a picture from Facebook because I recognized her face. And he's like, "I just had dinner at her house. Do you want me to hook you up?" And I said, "Yes."
Hook you up is not the right term, but yeah.
"Do you want me to introduce you to her?" And I said, "Yes." So then we went to a church on Wednesday for a praise and worship service, and that's where we met for the first time. And that's where she fell madly in love with me.
I knew it.
No. Yeah, so that's just basically where we were introduced, and then I began the chase, and it was quite a chase, quite a journey from there. So.
Yeah, so I think the next time because we had a couple meetups like at the beginning that was kind of funny because what I knew nothing about you, and so the only thing I had to go off on was I knew a couple of your friends, like who your friend circle was, and I know now like he's got a lot of different friends, and he's very loyal, and he's got really long-term friends, which is something that I really value and appreciate. But the friends that I knew were his, they weren't maybe the guys that I would go out with, and I wasn't even looking to go out with anyone. But
Well, I think probably the most politically correct way to say this is we both have had things happen in our life, and so we were both very cautious of who we're going to spend time with and to get to know. And so she was, I think she was just very guarded of the people that she let in her circle.
yeah,
We should say.
yeah. And so I know one of the first times we got to spend some time talking was we had gone, it was like after a dance class, and a lot of times a lot of us would go have tacos because it was on a Tuesday night, so Taco Tuesday, we're having tacos every time. And so there's a big group of us, and then like everyone starts dropping off like flies, and all that's left is me now going out with my friend's boyfriend and TJ. And I'm not the type to cancel on stuff, but I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so awkward. Like I don't even know these guys hardly, and I'm meeting them for tacos, and so I had a friend in the neighborhood where we were gonna be eating tacos, and I was like, hey, if you happen to be like walking by or something, feel free to like, oh hey, so wild to see you here, and my thought at the time was, because I wasn't interested in dating and anything. And so I was like, I'm just going to tell him my testimony about how God gave me this house that I was living in, and I'll just like be a witness for Jesus to him, and I told him about this YouTube channel, which ended up being a blessing because you heard about it. And
So I basically got to know her through her YouTube messages. And so I had a big advantage. And I knew the type of person she was and what her heart was. And I, like I said, I wasn't really looking, but I just and I never used these words before her. I liked her energy, her aura. I feel like I need to throw some crystals out when I say that. But that's not how I was until now. So I was intrigued. So I continued to pursue getting to know her. And she was, she was okay with it, but we had to be in group settings. So we met in group settings for about 3 months, which was good.
Yeah.
Which was good.
It was. It was. And so I don't know. So I guess it came later in the year, and you were kind of wanting to have a discussion about just where things were headed. Is that what you want to talk about next?
I'm not quite sure how far you want to take this.
Just the highlights.
Well, I guess, so this is 3 months into, I guess we started seeing each other, not seeing each other, met each other in August and getting to know each other August, September, and October. And so by this time, she had agreed to go to lunch with me, just the two of us. And then
Just as friends.
just a couple, right. But I was trying to figure out whether I was getting the friend vibe or whether she liked me vibe. And so we went to a couple lunches or whatever, and she was telling me how much her friends liked me, and her mom and dad liked me, and all of her kids liked me.
Because he went to the same church, so all my people got to meet him, and even my kids, which had been very against the thought of me going out with anyone and such. Two of my kids were actually several of my kids were like, why aren't you dating this guy? Why don't you go out with him? He's super nice. He's a great guy. And I'm just like, stay in your own lane. I'm not dating, okay? But it was kind of funny that my kids were actually telling me I should.
So I got back to work after a lunch date with her, and I sent her a little, because she does Marco, which is really weird at first, is our Marco messages, if you know what that is.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. It's like you video yourself talking. That's weird, but I'm kind of used to it now. And so I sent her a message, and I said, hey, I'm really happy that everyone likes me, but what about you? Which kind of threw her for a loop.
Yeah.
And so she sent me a super long Marco message that didn't tell me anything, except kind of understanding where she was in life and relationships, which, if you understand her past, you would also understand why she was very leery to be any kind of a relationship. So I got that. And then...
so we decided to have a discussion about it, get together for a discussion. And I was... So going into it, this was my mindset, was because he was wondering if he was just if I saw him forever in the friend zone, or if there was a chance, of a possibility. So I was like, oh, thanks, I'm enjoying this, just hanging out and stuff. And I had gotten to know him a lot more by then, his character and people who've known him for a long time and such. And I was like, so I knew he was a good guy by now, but I was like, I'm just not ready. And so I went into the conversation thinking, okay, I'll tell him there might be a possibility for something in the future. I'm thinking in a year, maybe in a year we can look at dating. And then you want me to? Or do you want to share it?
So then she came over to the house, because I was like, let's just talk like a couple grown-ups and figure out whether we're just friends or there's a possibility of more. And so we visited and talked, and kind of ended the conversation that, you know, there's a possibility, and we're friends. And as she was leaving, we gave each other a hug, and she hugged me a little longer than what you would expect.
I was just
Actually,
like-
I was breaking up. I was like, went in for a hug, and I was letting go, and she hugged more. Which
I was like, it's such a good conversation, you know? That's all I was thinking.
it was a clue that she wanted me to kiss her, and I did. So,
And then it's
and
history.
A year later, we're married.
It was a great kisser. It like changed everything. It's like, okay, I guess we're gonna start dating. And so, actually, I was still really cautious for quite a while. Like except for my close friends who knew and had been around me and him and stuff. Like I would refer to him as Muscles. Like that was his name. I wouldn't even tell people your name.
Which is a lot of pressure. I really just wanted to get fat and eat O's and quit working out, but since she kept calling me Muscles, I had to stay in the gym.
So I called him. I would just refer to him. I'm like, oh yeah, me and Muscles and I are going out tonight. Like I wouldn't even like to say that we're dating. I'm like, we're just getting to know each other, because it was just a big commitment feeling to say, oh, I'm dating someone. And so at that time in my life, this perfect farmhouse that I thought I was going to be in till, I jokingly said it's like the farmhouse that I'm going to say until I was 85. The people who had the situation, I explained that on a different YouTube video, needed the house back for their daughter who was going through a very bad situation. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like my life has felt like in such upheaval, and I just felt like I was getting settled in a place I was going to stay for a while. So, I thought I was going to have to be out in February at first, and then they were like, no, you can stay a little longer. Well, then all this stuff about Corona starts being talked about, and a possible, like, I don't know, what do you call it, like where they closed everything down. And so,
Well, so she lived out in this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and
people were acting crazy about toilet paper.
We didn't know what the quarantine was going to look like. So my mom lives across the street from me, and I was like, well, my daughter and I could move into my mom's house, and Shauna and her kids can move into my house, and that way they would be close. And if the quarantine stuff was really weird and she was separated from us out into the country, well, that wouldn't be good, and I was worried about her safety. So I presented it to her. She thought it was a good idea. So her and the kids moved into my house. My daughter and I moved across the street.
Yeah, just for like the month, just for the quarantine time. So we just like packed up some clothes, our books, food, my plants, and we moved over here.
Oh my God, lots of plants.
You love them now. I've gotten rid of some too.
I had to weed out a few.
And so we just moved over for the month. And then, with the plan that I was going to move back to my house, pack up, and then I was going to have to permanently find a new place like a month after that. Well, then they extended it for 10 days. And so TJ had the thought of like, well, this 10 days, now we're getting closer into the time when you actually do have to be out, and you're going to be able to go back to work and all that stuff. And so he was like, why don't we just pack you up and move in that 10 days, like just move everything into his garage in my storage unit. And that way, when the thing was lifted, I can get back to work. I wasn't in like a rush to find a new place in 2 weeks and move and all that. And so that's what we decided to do. And I'm pretty sure I made a video about this, but like I still had the mindset of like, cause that was like mid-May, right? Mm-hmm. And so I still had the mindset of like, okay, this is just a temporary situation. And because like I wasn't ready to get married right away, even though like I loved him and everything like that, like I just wasn't there like past stuff, you know, past baggage or whatever. Like, and so it was, so like I had prayed about it, and I said this on one of my videos. I didn't share the whole thing because, you know, I hadn't even said I had a boyfriend on my YouTube, and that is a whole nother story. But really, when I went to prayer, God spoke all this stuff that he'd been speaking like the whole week and a half before. And then he was like, do you need a place to live right this second? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, if you don't, then just believe and trust that when you do need a place, it will be there for you. And I'm like, and that was with a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll have to tell TJ this. And so I told him, I'm like, I prayed, and this is what I felt like God had said. And he's like, okay, sounds great with me. And so our thought was like, we had several things going, like busyness stuff. Like we went on that vacation, me with my kids, him and Claire, my best friend Katie and her kids all went to South Dakota. So there was a lot of busyness. So I was thinking, well, maybe after that, like mid-July, because I needed a place to move and get settled before school started, like we'll approach that then. So, but that's not, I guess I could.
I didn't want him to move, and by
Yeah.
this time we had already been talking about our future.
Yeah.
And my mom's super gracious to continue to let Claire and I stay there. And you know, we had already talked about getting married and spending the rest of our life together. And so I was like, don't move.
Yeah. Well, so it was like mid-June. It was like so weird how little things click and such. And we were, we had a garage sale. There was a neighborhood garage sale. And there was just like something in me that just was not, I was just not ready to commit to like, oh yes, I want to get married. Like it was just something in me, it just like scared me. And like I would see signs for like wedding decorations, and like I'd see them and just like, I'd just be like, ugh, you know, and not because I didn't want to be with him, but because just this idea of marriage from what I had before. And so something had happened, and I probably don't have time to go into that, but, or do I have time to go into that real quick?
I'm not sure what you're going into.
Okay. The garage sale thing. So we
Okay.
were having this garage sale, and you know, it's like we were done, and I was selling a bunch of my stuff, and like we were done, and I sold a bunch, but I still had a lot that didn't sell, and we were like packing it up, and we were in his mom's garage because that's where we had the garage sale, and I'm just feeling super embarrassed all of a sudden, and I don't get embarrassed very easily, but I'm just like also feeling bad. Like I had spent money on these clothes that were still in great condition, and it was just, I felt very wasteful. And I understand, like, well, that's a whole nother story too, but like I was just embarrassed that I felt like I misused money, just was being frivolous and stuff. And I'm like, and now I'm just like getting rid of it, and so I'm just feeling kind of embarrassed by it. But we're just in silence, and all of a sudden, like, he speaks out, because he's very perceptive. Like I'll be feeling something, and he just picks up on it, and a lot of times he knows why. And but all of a sudden he's like folding my stuff, and he's like, you know, I sure am glad that I have a girlfriend who always looks so nice everywhere she goes, you know, and always dresses so nice. And I don't know, something about that was just like broke whatever it was in me that felt hesitation or whatever. I know it's weird and it's really small, but it did. And I just like gave him a hug. I started crying, and I'm like, you know, I think I'm ready to get married. You know, I think it's sometimes like the vulnerabilities that you feel like, is someone going to see everything of who I am, like all, like the good things and the bad things, like the strengths, but also the faults. And is someone going to be able to handle that? Like, are they going to be accepting of everything of who I am and what I've gone through? And I don't know, I guess it was like that moment made me feel like you saw all of me and you love me. And so I think that was the thing. And so then it's like, if we're going to get married, there's no reason for me to move out. So it made perfect sense why God had spoke to me and was like, hey, just trust and believe that when you need a house, it's going to be there. Because, yeah.
So I joke that it's all part of my master plan, and that I orchestrate a worldwide pandemic to get the woman that I love to move into my house, and they never move out.
Yeah. And what was really awesome about the whole thing was my kids were, we were able to move in here with TJ being across the street and Claire being across the street. But they were over here all the time. Like, I'd make dinner and they'd be over here for dinner. And because of the pandemic and everything being closed, we would take bike rides all over the place and parking lots because no one was doing anything. So we just spent a lot of family time together. My kids were able to be around him and Claire a lot in a very, it wasn't like put on them all at once, like pressure wise or something. It was just easy. And then it's like, once we decided we were going to get married, we were waiting on some other things. And, but we were like, well, if we're going to get married, like, I might as well move all my stuff and like take it out of the boxes. So I was able to like get the kitchen in order, like decorate all this stuff. And so when we actually got married, it was so nice. Like, I'm already moved in, the house is decorated, we're in this flow of life.
Mm-hmm. So the only thing that was different is I moved out of my mommy's house back into my own house. But the neat thing is that we were able to slowly integrate our families, our kids, and we are so blessed that the kids all get along great.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful situation. Everything is moved in. It's nice. And so really it's been great to watch how God has blessed this situation and the decisions we've made and how we've gone to him for guidance and direction. And I think probably to encourage people when you're going through some tough times is so often the answer is not right away. It's down the road. And I think as long as you keep faith, continue to trust in God, and push forward, believing that God's going to turn around a bad situation for your good and his glory, it's often better than you had ever asked or imagined. Yeah. And so, don't lose hope. The seeds that you plant for today, it takes a while sometimes for the harvest to manifest for the seeds that you planted. And sometimes when we've got problems in our lives, we've allowed some things to slip, that we've allowed some junk to come into our lives, and it takes a little while for that to get cleaned up. And so just don't lose faith or trust in God. He's going to come through. He's walking with you through the fire. And sometimes it takes being on the other side of your bad situation for you to look back and think, wow, God has done an amazing thing in my life.
Yeah.
And he got it done relatively quicker than I would have thought. But when you're going through it, it sucks. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
And you can get really discouraged, but don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we really feel like this has been such a God story, like from the beginning, like God walking this path of glory that he's laid out, and just him working everything out so easily. And when there were questions there, it's like God has worked it out, and life is so good with our kids and just incorporating everything together. It's just been great. We're just really thankful, and I was really excited to bring you on an introduction to everyone. So that's all. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't.
Okay. Thanks for listening to our story. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.